While American weddings have a few traditions that some choose to carry on, all weddings vary and by so many factors. In fact, there are quite a few TV shows that profit off the huge American wedding market that shows just how wacky and different American weddings can get. In China, however, wedding traditions are valued and many considered sacred. In this presentation, I will be looking at Chinese weddings and the traditions that have been around for decades, as well as some of the changes that have come from other cultural influences, including Western. When any big Chinese event is being held, including a wedding, people will go to a fortune teller to find a date in the hopes that everything will go smoothly and does not offend any god or evil spirit. There are Chinese almanacs containing predictions for the entire year, which are sold by street vendors. These might tell you which day is auspicious, but then consulting a fortune teller is more assured to give a good wedding date, because these fortune tellers can analyze the dates, days, and times the bride and groom were born. If using the Chinese almanac and using a fortune teller is too much trouble, the couple need to at least avoid the last 15 days of the 7th lunar month, otherwise known as the Hungry Ghost Festival. Typically, wedding invitations are sent out in a long red envelope, similar to those that you would see when money is gifted to people at weddings or during Chinese New Year. The invitation usually has gold, vertical wording read from left to right with the groom's information presented before the bride's. It also includes the Chinese calendar dates for the wedding banquet, order of birth and names of the bride and groom, names of the parents, dinner venue, time of year for the cocktail reception, and time for dinner. The double happiness character appears on the envelope, which, back in the day, was hand-delivered to the guests a few days before the wedding. Now, the invitations are just mailed out. Chinese couples often pay a local photographer or a studio to take their professional wedding photos. They will wear fancy costumes, such as Western stylish formal wedding gowns and a formal suit, or a traditional wedding dress. Many couples take multiple photos and have a few wardrobe changes. These photos are typically arranged into an elaborate wedding album that can be on display at the wedding. Before the wedding, members of the wedding party are selected to prepare the wedding house, a key part being the installation of the newlywed's bed. To prepare the house, the selected person will usually scatter red-colored flowers and hang the double happiness symbol somewhere in the house, place the dragon and phoenix candle in the bedroom, and phoenix couplet on the floor. Both of those have meaning that there will be good relations between the newlyweds. Once the bed has been installed and made, children are invited onto the bed as an omen of fertility, and for the same reason, red dates, peanuts, and lotus seeds are scattered on the bed. The combing hair ceremony is a tradition that symbolizes the coming of age and entrance into adulthood of both the bride and the groom. This ceremony usually takes place the night before the wedding or the morning of the wedding in separate houses that the bride and groom are staying in. Each will bathe in pomelo or pomegranate leaves to ward off evil spirits. After each bathes, they will then change into new clothes and new slippers. The bride must then sit in a room facing a window where the moon is seen or in front of a mirror. The groom, however, must sit facing the inside of the house. A woman of good fortune will be the one to perform the actual ceremony. Usually, they are the mothers. They will then comb the hair 4 times while saying these 4 lines simultaneously. May your marriage last a lifetime. May you be blessed with a happy and harmonious marriage until old age. May you be blessed with an abundance of children and grandchildren. May you be blessed with longevity. The future bride and groom plan to stay for months, years even, but the wedding doesn't actually begin until the groom arrives to collect his bride. The whole occasion is a big celebration with firecrackers, gongs, and drums. When the groom picks her up, she will have already spent the night with a few of her girlfriends. They will play some games and tease the groom before they allow him to take her. They will only surrender their friend once the groom has bribed each of them with red packets of money. Once the bride has been collected, she is shielded from evil spirits by having the bridesmaids or someone else close to her hold an umbrella over her head. The two then bow to the bride's parents and are on their way. They will either travel to the groom's to meet the groom's parents, to the wedding ceremony, the tea ceremony, or if the ceremony has already taken place, straight to the reception. In traditional Chinese weddings, the ceremony is only a very small part of the entire wedding. Here, vows are exchanged at a local government office. The paperwork is signed, and then the couple attend an intimate ceremony where they stand at the family altar and pay their respects to nature, family ancestors, and deities. Once the couple bow to each other, the ceremony is complete. Tradition in Chinese weddings, a tea ceremony takes place. This can happen the day before the wedding ceremony, following the wedding ceremony, or even the day after the wedding ceremony. At the tea ceremony, both families are formally introduced and drink a Chinese tea together. Once the tea has been finished, the couple will receive a lucky red envelope that is given to them by the family. It is filled with money and sometimes even jewelry. Like a banquet than a reception. Sometimes the parents of the bride and groom will host separate wedding feasts, meaning the wedding celebration could span on for days. More commonly today, there is one big celebration, usually paid for by the groom's family. This celebration is seen as a public recognition of the union of the bride and groom. Invited guests should present their contributions to attendants at the entrance of the wedding reception. The attendants will record the guests' names and amount of money they contribute to the newlyweds, so they can contribute the same amount of money back when the guests get married. These receptions or banquets are often bright, colorful, and extravagant. In the banquets or feasts, the food is well planned and highly symbolic. These extravagant dinners usually include between 5 and 10 courses. The Chinese word for fish is yu, which sounds like the word for plenty, so a whole fish would be served as a wish for abundance. Sometimes fish roe in soup or as a garnish is served as a symbol for fertility. Sweet lotus seeds are sometimes served in dessert as a symbol for a wish for fertility as well. Some other significant dishes that you might see at Chinese wedding banquets would be pork roast, a symbol of virginity, or Peking duck to symbolize completeness. Squab or quail may be served to symbolize peace. The decorations in the banquet hall will usually involve or display the double happiness or double joy character previously mentioned, which is reserved solely for matrimonial usage. Banners with wishes and various different phrases will be hung on the doors and windows of the venue to wish the new couple well. Flowers are an essential part of decorating for a wedding banquet in Chinese culture. The flowers are used to decorate tables, similar to Western weddings. Lilies are most commonly used for weddings because the Chinese name for lilies sounds similar to a common idiom that means happy union for 100 years. It also has another connotation as it is known as the flower that brings sons to the happy couple. Orchids are also common as they represent a happy couple, love, wealth, and fortune. It is a Chinese tradition for the bride to wear a red dress called a qipao and to cover her face with a red veil on the wedding day. Today, many modern weddings have multiple outfit changes, sometimes into a white bridal gown, a third ball gown throughout the evening, and sometimes even a fourth dress at the end of the ceremonies to send off their guests. But some choose not to wear the white because white is traditionally unlucky because it symbolizes death. Color is important in Chinese culture. Many items, including the decorations and the wedding dress, will be red because red symbolizes happiness, prosperity, and good luck. Other things will be decorated in gold, which represents wealth and riches. The gifts, as previously mentioned, is usually money, given to attendants at the doors of the wedding. It is usually given in a red envelope addressed to the bride and groom. When giving gifts, the guests have to be sure not to give anything in multiples of 4, as 4 is an unlucky number in China. But multiples of 8 are good, especially 88, which bears resemblance to shuangxi, and 9, which sounds like long, as in long and happy marriage. 3 days after the wedding, the bride and groom visit the bride's family. At that time, the bride is no longer considered part of the family, but still welcomed as a guest. The groom is expected to present a roasted pig and enjoy a meal with the rest of the family. In doing this, he expresses appreciation and respect to his mother-in-law and father-in-law, and mainly shows them that their precious daughter has been and will be treated well. For many weddings in China, the traditions have been kept alive. There are over 2,400 years of history when it comes to Chinese weddings. Of course, many parts of the wedding traditions have begun to be forgotten or just used less by modern couples. For example, part of Chinese tradition is to have the bride carried in a sedan chair to the groom's home, but many choose not to do this and use a car instead. White is also a very unlucky color, as mentioned, but many brides are choosing to wear a white wedding gown at some point during their wedding day. Some parts of Chinese wedding culture has been left behind or just uncommon in today's marriages, but many couples still choose to have an entirely traditional wedding. In the West, wedding traditions are few, and most have just become a preference by some brides and or grooms and have lost any or all meaning. In the West, we typically wear white gowns to signify purity, one of the few traditions that is still used in almost all weddings. Other traditions include the superstition that the bride should not see the groom in her gown before the wedding. Others include having something old, something new, and something blue, which is only used in some weddings, but typically when it is used, it holds no meaning other than tradition. Many brides carry bouquets and have a wedding party. Again, something that many couples do because it is what they've witnessed. Many don't care to understand if any meaning is behind it. Other traditions that some couples might pick and choose from include cutting the cake, saving the top layer of cake for the first anniversary, tossing the garter and the bouquet, toasts, the 3 main first dances, and the throwing of rice. When looking at Chinese wedding traditions, it is clear that each tradition is particular and has a specific meaning behind it. Each part has a symbol, such as the colors, the flowers, and the meals. Chinese weddings pay a lot of attention to family, ancestors, and culture. Western wedding traditions are kind of just for fun, something that people have seen other couples do for decades. Many of these traditions are still used, but many Westerners pride themselves on being diverse, and many Western couples choose to abandon all tradition and have a wedding all their own. Some have wacky themes, such as Halloween, where the bride wears a black dress. Many are abandoning cakes altogether and have donuts or ice cream bars. Some Western couples elope and have no family or friends standing behind them as they exchange vows. In fact, vows are even an option in many weddings and aren't recited or used at all. Western weddings still have the option of using the traditions that have been around for decades, but because many of the symbols or meanings have been lost, unlike Chinese traditions, Western couples are choosing different things and opting not to carry on the traditions. For example, many Westerners don't know that throwing rice started as throwing seeds in hopes of fertility. It has changed to rice, then bubbles, and now anything Westerners can come up with, even silly string. For both Chinese and Western people, weddings were once the way of uniting two people that would eventually increase their families by having children, who would later do the same. While this has stayed true for Chinese culture, Western culture has changed, and the idea of getting married as virgins to conceive and have children is no longer true. In fact, married couples with kids is at an all-time low in America. Chinese couples still marry to continue their families on for generations, while Western couples marry as a result of love, if they even decide to make their relationship legal through marriage at all. The Western society pays more attention to individual independence. Western weddings still have the option of using the traditions that have been around for decades, but because many of them hold no real meaning or symbol, as Chinese traditions do, Western couples are choosing different things and opting not to carry on the traditions. When looking at both China and the West, there are many categories of differences between wedding traditions that have already been discussed. These include the wedding customs, the different procedures, outfits, purposes, activities, colors, and ceremonies. While there are many differences, there are still a couple similarities. The meaning of the wedding ring is the same, a continuous flow of love worn on the fourth finger in both cultures. Another is the symbol of the wedding itself, as an important similarity, as both cultures believe marriage to be something special and celebrated through a ceremony. Because of cultural exchange, many Chinese couples, even those living in China, are eager to incorporate some Western wedding style into their big day. For example, in China, the matchmaker is no longer important, and the couple chooses each other out of love. Some Chinese brides choose to wear white dresses entirely instead of the red qipao. Now, many foreigners, including Westerners, enjoy the idea of wearing the Chinese qipao. Some Westerners even wear white ones on their wedding day. Many Chinese and Western wedding traditions have been passed back and forth and will continue. While the differences between wedding cultures of Chinese and Westerners are clear and hard to avoid, they will continue to exist, but they will also continue to be shared. Chinese wedding traditions will continue to exist and be cherished and used in weddings, but because of cultural exchange, many Western wedding customs will also take place alongside the Chinese traditions, as well as Chinese customs being used in Western weddings.